What is up, everyone? Welcome to the EOS Fireside chat for the 31st of May. We've got an incredibly packed show for you today. 12 agenda topics, 9 special guests, plus all the regulars. It's going to be a good one. Let's get right into it. So our first guest, we've got Jona from AtomicHub joining us, I think possibly for the first time on the Fireside. We're going to be talking about the new reputation badges system that was just released on AtomicHub and potentially other things. We're talking, of course, about EOS moments leading up to the network's 5-year anniversary next week. It's also the Fractal anniversary next week, and Dan Singjoy is going to be talking to us about that. We're also going to be throwing it back to last week's topic about the Block 1 lawsuit. Michael Tulenko wants to join us today and share his thoughts. And then we've got Gnome from the EOS Network, previously EOS Titan, going to be joining us today to talk about their new app called Utility X. Pretty exciting stuff. Looking forward to hearing more about that. We've got Pomelo Season 6 kicking off today. We've got John from Boyd talking to us about Antelope Firewall. We've got Veronica from EOS Vision talking to us about her grant. We have Leister from Adenia talking about a recent blog post called Microchain Design Patterns. Going to be a treat for all of you technical people out there. We've got Pat Novajoy joining us talking about the EOS Digital Extended Network. We've got Lenny talking to us about the upvote bot updates and testing. The Binance AMA happened this morning. Community open mic after that. Off-topic banter. Let's see how long we can go for today. All right. No intro. Too many things to talk about. Let's get right into the action. So our first guest today, Jona, CEO of AtomicHub, one of the most successful NFT marketplaces in all of crypto. I'm pretty excited to have Jona join us today on the Fireside. I use the AtomicHub marketplace a lot every day. All of our promotions, all of the NFTs that you see on EOS, mostly thanks to that marketplace that we can run all of these great promotions and create all these great collections. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there for the intro, and I'm gonna invite Jona on stage with me. And yeah, welcome to the Fireside. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, hello there. Thanks for the very good introduction. Hi, Stephane. Thanks for the invite, and I'm excited to be joining today.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. So let's get right into it with the big news recently for AtomicHub. If there's other updates you want to share with us, we're all ears, of course. But there's some new reputation badges that are now live on AtomicHub. And for those of you familiar a bit with the AtomicHub, with the collection systems, previously there was a whitelisting sort of system, and now from what I understand, which I haven't had the time to dig deep into it, that system's been kind of replaced with reputation badges. Do I have that right so far?
Yes, exactly. You have that right.
All right. And now what are the advantages of this new system compared to the old way of doing things?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we were trying to tackle is to make the system as objective and transparent as possible. Obviously, the primary goal of our old whitelisting and verification system has been to make sure that the genuine and real collections stand out. And for the most part, we have achieved that goal, but it became more convoluted over time, and we kept having to make sort of judgment calls on whether a collection should be whitelisted, de-whitelisted, verified, de-verified. It just got a bit messy, which just came down to the system that wasn't designed for this. And now with the new badges, we're really trying to make it as transparent as possible. What are we actually checking in a collection? What can you expect from a collection? And then instead of sort of making that judgment call for our users, we're just giving our users the most information possible so that they can make the judgment call for themselves, which collections they want to trust and which they don't.
Beautiful. Love the approach. I can only imagine the headache you guys have been dealing with trying to, protect the community from scammers, but at the same time, make sure the platform's available for real creators that may be just starting out. So must be a very delicate balance kind of to achieve. But hopefully these badges, like you say, allows more information to be shared kind of automatically with the whole community. So what kind of badges are available for collections?
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely has been a headache, but also justifiably so. Our users ultimately our biggest critics as well, which we appreciate, which holds us accountable. And I think with this new system, we'll have fewer headaches. But yeah, in terms of what badges there will be, the two main ones that we will still award are content badge, which is basically just our way of saying, okay, we looked at this collection. It's not obviously fake. It's not obviously just a copy of something else. Second badge is an identity badge, which means that the creator of the collection conducted basically a little identity check with us so that we know who is behind that collection, really to just deter bad actors, because they will have to, at least to us, reveal their identity. And those are sort of the core ones, which in a way replace the whitelisting system. But then on top of that, we added additional badges, some of which are dynamic. For example, the collection age badge. If a collection is over 6 months or a year old, it will get a special badge for that. And the collection holders badge, if over 10,000 wallets hold NFTs of a certain collection, it will get a badge for that. Really, so that if a user displays those badges for a certain collection, they get as much information as possible about a collection.
Very cool. Very cool. I like the idea of KYCing your collection owners for those who want to. I'm sure you got a lot of pushback from some people. But as someone who is fully doxxed at this point, I don't mind sending my KYC information. I mean, I've sent it to so many sketchy exchanges. I definitely trust AtomicHub more than those sketchy exchanges. So I personally, I don't mind. I'll be definitely KYCing all of the collections that I've been working with on EOS, and I'm happy to be able to do that to instill more trust and confidence in the collection. So that's great.
Yeah, and crucially, we're not forcing anyone to do this. You can obviously still create a collection without it, and users can make a decision if they don't want to look for these badges. If they want to see every collection, even those that aren't badged, they have that option. So really, we don't want to force you to do this, but at the same time, our user base is a lot of casual users that perhaps aren't as familiar with the crypto space yet, that don't know what to look for in a collection, and we want to make sure that they are safe. So we're trying to strike a balance, as you said in the intro to this topic, really, a balance between keeping our users safe, but also allowing creators to create the stuff that they want without us being the gatekeepers, sort of. So that's why the KYC especially has been something we thought about, but ultimately we feel this is needed to keep the ecosystem safe. And then for the power users that maybe are okay with a collection that isn't KYC'd, they can still trade that collection, they can still collect that collection. Fully up to them, but we just make it transparent.
Very cool. So I'm looking at the introduction blog post here that I shared in the chat, looking at the other types of badges. Collection age, you mentioned. Business, an optional badge requiring the collection to pass a know your business check. So I guess that's kind of KYC for businesses.
Exactly.
Market volume, displays total market volume, 100K, 500K, 1 million, etc. The NFT holders, that's cool one as well that you mentioned. I'm wondering, is it possible to get some slightly modified targets for the EOS network compared to Wax? Because obviously, the NFT market on Wax is very active, much bigger than on EOS. So I'm just thinking, going to be very, very hard for my collections on EOS to get these badges. So I'm wondering if maybe it's possible to adjust these targets for EOS for now, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting topic. So the short answer to that is, I think, no. But the longer answer to that is, what we're aiming for with AtomicHub is, right now we have wax.atomichub.io and we have eos.atomichub.io. And those are sort of two instances of the same experience, but it's very separate. If you're on Wax, you don't see anything on EOS. If you're on EOS, you don't see anything on Wax. But what we actually have been working on, and what has been sort of the biggest investment in product that we've made in the last half year or so, is building a unified experience where it's just going to be AtomicHub IO. You're going to have the Wax collections there. You're going to have the EOS collections there, which I feel will just be a better user experience for our users, because ultimately, casual user won't care which blockchain and NFT it's on. They're just going to care about the content. They're just going to care about what that NFT actually represents. And so bringing that all together then also means that if it's all in one experience, if we have one requirement for one chain, another requirement for the other chain, I feel that might lead to confusion. However, one thing that we can do is the badges that we have right now will not be all the badges that we have ever. Actually, those badges give us sort of the opportunity to give out special badges for specific events, or it could also mean we give out special badges for EOS collections if there's something special there. So I don't think we would want to have the same badge with different requirements for different chains. That would just be confusing. But we could think about having special badges for EOS collections, or having special badges that you can perhaps achieve in a different way.
Very cool. I mean, for sure, if you give me the choice with our custom targets for EOS, or just bring our EOS collections to the, in front of the Wax community, obviously, I think that would be awesome to combine both EOS and Wax just on AtomicHub, all the collections there for everyone to see. That's great. And then I definitely understand why you wouldn't want to have different metrics for these badges, in that scenario. But yeah, very cool stuff. Looking forward to kind of seeing what other badges, creative badges you guys come up with. I think badges is, it's a great use case for NFTs. We use it with the Pomelo community as well. We give out badges to the top donors, to the top grant creators, to the top collections. So very cool to see that you guys are also using that on a kind of meta level. Not only are these I guess these are not NFT badges, but they're badges for the NFT collections itself. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, exactly. And well, it really gives us the option to do a lot of fun stuff with it in the future, and at the same time gives our users just the most amount of information available in as easily digestible of a format as possible.
Yeah, so Jay Ruffer in the chat here asks if these are actually badges or proof of participation. So are these actual NFTs that the collection creator holds in his account, or they're just kind of a UI thing on AtomicHub?
Yeah, so they're not NFTs because they are dynamic. For example, the NFT holders badge, theoretically you could have more than 1,000 holders at one time and then drop below that at another time. So at that point, it would have to change. With an NFT, that wouldn't really be possible. So no, they are not NFTs, but they are obviously publicly visible on AtomicHub. Other projects, other websites could access them if they wanted to, but no, they are not NFTs.
Right on. That makes sense. Yeah, anyone else? Anyone from the crowd want to jump on here, ask Jona a question about these badges, or maybe other things about the NFT space, the AtomicHub marketplace? Feel free to do that. In the meantime, Jona, was there anything else on kind of your radar these days that you want to maybe share with the EOS community?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing we've been working on that will release really soon, actually, is what I sort of dropped in my explanation there, which is the sort of building.
Is it me or him that just dropped off?
I think it's him.
There for a second.
Okay, you're back, Jona. We lost you there for a bit.
Okay, I'm not sure where I stop. I'll just keep talking. So the biggest thing I think for AtomicHub that will happen in really the coming month or so is the unified AtomicHub experience, where it's not going to be Wax.AtomicHub, not going to be EOS.AtomicHub, just going to be AtomicHub, which I think is exciting for EOS because, as you say, then the Wax audience will also be exposed to EOS all the time. It's exciting for Wax because the EOS audience will be exposed to Wax all the time. I think it's just a clear win-win. Ultimately, our users want the best content. that content could be on any chain, and so we just want to support it. And I think that will sort of be one of the first, if not the first, big true multi-chain marketplace. Pretty much all NFT marketplaces that are multi-chain have a chain selector just somewhere in the top right where you can switch between chains, just the way it is on AtomicHub today. But bringing that all together into one experience has been a massive technical challenge, but perhaps even more so massive user experience challenge. And I'm really happy with how it turned out, and that will release pretty soon, which I'm just the most excited about right now, I think.
Yeah, very cool. That is actually very exciting. And like you say, a clear win-win for both chains. I imagine the answer is no, but is the recent IBC that is now live on Wax through, Antelope IBC, did that come into play for this multi-chain approach or not?
Not yet, but we're aware of it, and we're aware that it could be really interesting. So we made that decision to go down that path probably 6 or even 8 months ago. It's really been a long time coming for us. And it will also mean that AtomicHub will expand to other chains down the line, which are not just Antelope-based, but really just anywhere where there's good content. But the IBC between Antelope chains and between Wax and EOS, I think could be really interesting. We thought about it extensively like a couple of years ago, and it's challenging technically to make it happen, but I don't think it's impossible. And if we can make it happen, that would obviously just benefit both ecosystems massively if users can just move things back and forth. So really, it's on our mind. It's not something we're actively working on right now, but I personally would quite like to see it happen. It's challenging.
Yeah, cool stuff. I mean, I think there's a lot of value in the unified experience that you guys are working on. So I think that's actually pretty exciting. I had no idea about that. So definitely thank you for sharing that. I see another question in the chat here. Maybe one of the last questions before we move on to another topic. When NFT 3D object support, asks Denis.
That's a good question. I mean, like 2 years ago, I mean, that's when we first wanted to do it, and then other things kept popping up. It's been really difficult for us to these things. It's just because we have such a long list of ideas of what we want to implement, and one of those things has always been sort of more dynamic attribute types, which 3D objects would be a part of. I can't possibly promise a timeline without being killed by Fabian, my co-founder, later, so I won't. But it will come eventually. I'm sure it will.
There you go.
But yeah, sorry for no timeline. But I know it would be cool.
Coming eventually. Speaking of your infinite to-do list and, having a limited amount of hours in the day, I'm actually curious how big the AtomicHub team is at this point, and maybe how long you guys have been working on AtomicHub.
Yeah, so we were actually just on a team event last week, so we're a fully remote company, but every now and then we fly everyone out for a week to spend some time together. Right now we're 37 full-time employees working on AtomicHub. I mean, we started building, and that is just Fabian and me, my co-founder and me, in 2019 and then launched in 2020. But sort of the team really exploded together with the whole just explosion of NFT interest in 2021, and really sort of that's when we started becoming a real team.
Very cool, very cool. Last question from me anyways, not NFT related, not AtomicHub platform related. I'm actually curious to know what kind of retreat your team did, because we're kind of in the planning stages, because us at EOS Nation, we're also fully remote. And so we're kind of trying to plan something to get the whole team together. So I'm curious what you guys did at your retreat last week.
Yeah, I mean, it was really fun actually. So we went to Italy, to Sicily specifically, and instead of getting just a hotel where everyone stays, which we did in the past, we had a number of B&Bs spread across this small little town. So really just like 6-7 different B&Bs, people spread across the town. Then we had a co-working space there for meetings and working together. But obviously, we didn't just work together. We also had a few activities, like a team relay was one. We had a good product workshop. I mean, it was
very cool.
It was really good. I mean, it's hard to describe in without you having been there, but it was a really fun vibe. It was great to see everyone. Has been great seeing everyone the past few times we did it, but it's just so important. I strongly believe that being a remote company is the way to go, because we want to hire the best people, and the best people don't all just live in Munich. But at the same time, meeting one another in person is just so important for those human relationships. Seeing someone not just in a small tile in Google Meet, but actually interacting with them and actually understanding what makes them tick.
Totally. All right. Well, I think that's it. I don't think I've seen any other questions. Maybe last call for anyone who wants to ask Jona a question. If not, thank you very much for joining the Fireside, and please do come back with more AtomicHub news for us.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me, and we'll work hard on getting more news.
All right. Awesome. Have a good one, Jona.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, moving on to our next topic of the day. EOS Moments, the 5-year anniversary of the EOS Network, is coming up next week. Make sure you join the Fireside next week. Going to be a special edition of the Fireside. Going to be reviewing more of our favorite EOS moments of the past 5 years. We're going to be opening our EOS Moments NFT packs. Those who are able to collect them and open them during the Fireside next week will be able to earn additional EOS prizes. We'll be doing some giveaways. Should be a fun Fireside. So make sure you set your calendar and join us for that Fireside. There's also the Chinese version of the Fireside that happens every 2 weeks. That's also going on next week. So people from the Chinese community who want to join the Fireside can join that. And it's also going to be a similar event with the pack opening, giveaways and prizes, etc. So yeah, Phil was reaching out to me saying that he wished he was here last week when we were reminiscing about the launch of the network. Phil, I don't know if you wanted to jump on stage real quick and maybe share a few of your thoughts. I see that you've found some old videos of the EOS launch party. Very cool of you to share that in the chat, but I would love to hear a bit from you and hear some of your thoughts from the launch of the network.
Yeah, so I unfortunately took vacation last week and missed all the fun talk, but I did find this video from the San Francisco Airbnb that included Nathan and just a whole bunch of Black producers or future Black producers. And it's kind of nice to see the various people telling their stories, their histories, and just to see what kind of feelings everyone had about the future, their optimism, which, well, maybe misplaced, but it was pretty electric. So, yeah.
For sure. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for jumping on here, sharing a bit of your thoughts there. I'll be checking out those videos after the Fireside. That's great.
Yeah.
And we'll get you back on, Phil, to talk about the other topic that we've got scheduled on. But we're just gonna first continue on with the EOS moments. There was a thread posted last week kind of highlighting some moments 6 to 10. So I'm going to quickly read through this thread. I think it highlights a lot of some nice significant moments. The leading tweet says that these EOS moments to highlight the breathtaking performance of the network, reaching over 100 million transactions a day during the IDOS days, and the undeniable resilience of the community. So, moment number 6, Rex joins the party. In May 2019, the Resource Exchange Protocol unlocked nearly uncontrollable scalability on the network. Token holders could now rent out their unused capacity to power users, increasing both the utility and yield of the EOS token. After that, moment number 7, the second EOS Community Conference in October 2019. Community came together for the second EOS Community Conference, this time held on the other side of the world in Rio, Brazil. Let's see some number ones in the chat for anyone that was present at the EOS Community Conference in Rio. Unfortunately, I was not able to go there. Very jealous, never been to Brazil. Would have loved to go. We see a Daniel Keys here dropping a 1 in the chat. We got 86 people in here. That's awesome. I know we got a couple others. There we go. June dropping a 1. I think Yves was there. Maybe he's not listening to the Fireside right now. But yeah, awesome to see that some of you guys that were there are with us today. Love to hear maybe your thoughts, some of your favorite stories after we're done here going over the moments. Would love from anyone in the crowd if they have stuff to say about these moments. Moment number 8, the attack of the CPU miners. That was a very important event in the history of EOS. In January 2020, the EOS network encountered a situation that would test the resiliency, redundancy, and capacity of the network. How strong is the EOS network really? Would it be able to withstand the onslaught of the CPU miners? Moment 8.1, the defense of the EOS operators. The epic on-chain battle for CPU lasted months, and the grueling battle tested many parts of the EOS ecosystem all at once. Core devs shipped specific protocol features to help mitigate the attack, and node operators worked tirelessly to strengthen, optimize, and reorganize the structure of their nodes in order to be able to withstand an outrageous number of transactions. Eventually, the network emerged victorious. 100 million plus transactions per day. Now able to process over 100 million transactions per day, the network could easily handle the CPU miners. The Ponzi-nomics powering the attack eventually fizzled out, and the once loud CPU miners left quietly into the night. So would love to hear from some of the node operators that are with us today, kind of what they remember of this event. But before that, final 2 moments of the day. Moment number 9, undisputed champion of China. The China Center for Information Industry Development, CCID, has published multiple global rankings of public blockchains and, based on their technical assessments, has consistently ranked the EOS network in first place. Always fun to see. And then moment number 10, a foundation for #the new EOS. In August 2021, after a long period of misguided hope and patience, the EOS community was hungry and ready for something new. Emerging from this deep and widespread desire for change, leadership, and action, the EOS Network Foundation was born. So there we go. That wraps up the 5 moments for today, leading up to August 2021. Red Kid, not a fan of the CCID moment. Fair enough. But I would love to hear from you guys out here in the chat. Maybe if you were at the conference in Rio, or maybe if you're a node operator that was dealing with the IDOS attack. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on these moments. If you're listening to this and you're not able to join us live, I would still like to hear your thoughts on these moments. We're actually thinking of embedding some of these audio messages from the community within these NFTs that we're going to be publishing commemorating these moments. So if you want to maybe have your voice, not going to share any pictures, not going to share last names, anything like that. But if you want maybe an audio clip of yours to be included in these moments, reach out to me, send me the audio clip on Discord, Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, whatever it is. And we'll see if we can add them here to the this collection that we're working on, that we're pretty excited to share with the community next week. So reach out to me in DMs somewhere and send me an audio clip of these moments. Real quickly, to recap the moments of the week, we had Resource Exchange Protocol going live, the second EOS Community Conference, the attack of the CPU miners, the IDOS days. We have the undisputed champion of China and the birth of the EOS Network Foundation. All right, so I hope many of you can join us next week as we reveal these NFTs and celebrate 5 years of EOS Moments. Before we move on to our next topic, actually, would like to invite Dan Saintjoy to briefly talk to us about the Fractal anniversary that's also coming up next week. However, I see that... Oh, there you go. There you are.
I'm here.
Dan. There you go.
Thank you, Stephane. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the Fireside. It's been a while since we've heard from you.
That's true. Yeah, well, I've been listening still every week, and there's been a couple times I haven't been able to make because sometimes the Eden Fractal meetings tend to go for like hours and hours. But I always listen, and I'm glad to be back here speaking again. It has been many weeks, I think, but great to hear from you as always, Stephane, and also from the AtomicHub team and everybody doing amazing work in EOS and the EOS Moments too. I think that's an awesome initiative. So yeah, I'm glad to be here, and thank you for giving me a chance to speak, Stephane. I really appreciate it. And I can be brief too. I know you said you're on a tight schedule, so I asked if maybe I can share a longer update with Eden Fractal. I'd love to share with everybody all the great progress we're doing, perhaps next week or whenever there's more time, but I can just share a quick update about the year anniversary coming up. So sound good?
Yeah, exactly. Give us the highlights. Give us what we need to know for next week, and maybe at the end of the show today, or like you said, tomorrow, next week, we can have a longer segment where maybe we won't have 9 guests lined up that day.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Well, that's, by the way, I don't know if I call it a problem, but it'd be a great problem to have. You've been having awesome guests so far in the past week, so I love it, and looking forward to discussion. Yeah, so basically, high-level overview, Eden Fractal, the 1-year anniversary is coming up on June 8th. I just realized this week, actually, it's like the same week as the EOS community, the EOS 5-year anniversary. So happy anniversary and birthday, everybody, coming up, and really excited. And it's a nice coincidence. We just had our 52nd meeting, and over this meeting, we just ended a couple hours ago. And then last week, we've been doing some planning sessions, basically. There's about 15 people who joined. We had a bunch of great builders and lots of great ideas. We're also playing music and having a lot of fun today with all sorts of cool stuff. But I can share more details in the future. Basically, it's been an amazing first year. We've been building awesome tools and making great shows of the meetings and other shows each week, and also inventing great consensus games. So I have lots of updates that I'm excited to share with you, and everybody can check out edenfractal.com/details if you want to see an overview of some things we've been doing. And also all the videos are published on the Eden Careers YouTube channel. I'll also share a couple links in the chat where people can follow up, as well as join the Telegram group. But yeah, next week or past couple weeks, we've been planning for the anniversary session or anniversary week. It'll be the 1-year anniversary. And so planning to do a special event where we're playing and inventing new consensus games. I think about doing a Fractal DJ where people share their music, and also a talent show, and also a speeches game where people share about how much Eden Fractal has affected them and so forth. And we're still figuring out the best way to do it, but planning to do new consensus games and give out extra prizes. We usually give out 100 EOS, and they respect each week, but I'm thinking of giving away a couple hundred extra EOS, and then also sending out NFT, some cool artwork that I made that maybe everybody who participated in the Eden Fractal meeting so far this year, there's been like 80 people or so. So I'm going to send out some NFTs, and we're going to work out some other details with more NFTs and all sorts of cool stuff. But yeah, basically we're still in progress, but we're trying to make an amazing event to summarize the cool stuff we've been doing for the EOS community and for Eden community. And I invite everybody to join next Wednesday. It happens every Wednesday at 15:30 UTC. That's when we start, and everybody's welcome to join for just a couple minutes here or there. If you want to stay the whole time, it's a great time, and happy to share more details more in the future. And I'll follow up in the chat. And thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. That was actually brief. You delivered. You delivered. That's great. Actually, I got a couple questions for you. Well, actually, you mentioned last week you had like 15 people, which I was curious to know how many people were showing up, and then you said about 80 different unique individuals over the year have showed up to these meetings. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. There's something like 80, it might be 75. I'd have to look at the accounts because some people have duplicate accounts, but it's all on the eden.fractal account on EOS. And you can see all the accounts. I think it's about 75 people probably. And then, on average, there's Jorge shared a message actually in the Eden group. There's been between 12 and 29 people at all the meetings, and the average has been about 15 or so. And the meetings are quite long sometimes too. So.
And what's an example of a consensus game that you guys have been played? I gotta admit, you've got me curious on what that means.
Well, awesome. Thanks for asking. I'm glad you're curious. So, consensus game.
Please be brief.
Yeah, I will certainly be brief, and I can go into more detail another time. And there's also websites too. So, for example, I actually just released some articles, edencreators.com/games and edencreators.com/GameFi with more details. And then also at the edenpractical.com/details, there's more details where you can find a welcome guide and stuff that we're working on. But yeah, basically, and it was largely inspired by you, Stephane, because I remember during the Eden on EOS election from, 4 months ago or whatever, you held the, I don't remember what you called it, but like you're talking about Eden as a game, basically, and you were sharing like the instruction manual.
Eden strategy.
Right. Yes, the masterclass on Eden strategy. So that, along with just, I've been living and breathing these Eden meetings, and we've been calling processes for 2 years, but I've been constantly thinking about it. And I love games. I love, people love to have fun. And also I love what's going on with EOS and GameFi and Antelope and everything like that. So basically for the past 6 months or year or so, me and many people in the Eden market community have been just thinking about how these are consensus games. They're games where people come to consensus. They're working to help each other. You have a challenge like who did the most to help the community this week, and then everybody comes to consensus using what we call the Fractal process or the Eden plus Fractal game to rank each other's contributions, and then people get different rewards for doing that. And then we also have another game we call Agendas, which is how we select topics. Like people propose topics on the consortium you have on EOS throughout the week, and then people can vote on that with respect they've earned, and then we the game called Agendas, where we kind of have like community agendas. We work together to create agendas, make proposals to each other, and so forth. So there's other games, like I mentioned, there's 3 new games where we're going to try doing it, where people share music in Fractal DJ, and then we rank with the delegates and things like that, and the amount of people we respect, or the Fractogram app, all these different apps that we have for reaching consensus. Like people can rank people's music, or people can rank people doing their speeches to say who get the best speech, and then people who gave a better speech and are voted by the community basically will get greater rewards. So we've kind of been doing it for a long time with Eden on EOS and all these games, and we're just thinking more about how these are games, and then all the flexible options about people coming to consensus to do fun things together and help each other. That's kind of the high-level overview.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for explaining that.
You're welcome. Right. Sorry, by the way, if I got caught up with the long description, but thanks again for asking.
No, all good.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the Fireside again.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, maybe we'll hear more from you later on today, or maybe next week. That's great.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
All right. Moving on to our next topic. Throwback, actually, to a topic of last week when we discussed the potential for a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit against Block One on behalf of the community. Unfortunately, the timing was kind of unfortunate. Yves had to take a call while we were discussing that topic. Yves, I don't know if you're available right now to maybe say a few words. I had one question about that I would like to ask you.
Sure. And I don't know if this was planned, but I literally just came in the Fireside. I had to mute myself up until about 2 minutes ago. So I don't know if you noticed that. Or if it's just random.
I noticed you weren't available earlier on.
Gotcha.
But now I just checked and I saw you were, so gave it a shot. So there was actually an interesting question last week that was asked that we weren't able to get an answer because you weren't available, which is why now? Why was that letter that you shared last week, why was it shared, at this point in time instead of potentially earlier or maybe later?
Sure, I'll answer that question. I'll even give a little bit more context to, I would imagine, other questions that people have and that likely came about or that are likely going to come about. When the ENF was formed, one of the first mandates that we were given by a substantial amount of token holders, and if you think about what the mandate of the ENF is to support and amplify the EOS network. And that comes in various different ways. So, for example, lately, we've been told through the various mechanisms of feedback that we collect that EVM, for example, is important to the EOS stakeholders. And so we've shifted a lot of resources to be able to support that. Just another example of when things priorities shift. Our job literally is to come and help support that. The items or the issues, the initiatives that are being brought up as a priority. One of the first priorities that was laid out when we created the ENF was that of the Block 1 matter. And it came in multiple different ways. So one of them, as we know, and we dealt very, very early on, was the vesting of tokens to Block 1 as one of the priorities. And that was essentially resolved back in December of 2021. But the other lingering issue was just that of a potentially legal matters against Block 1. And so we were given the task of starting an investigation and starting basically that file, working on that front. And as most people know, and if you don't know, I guess then you should know, these things take quite a long time. So if we look at the other class action that's currently ongoing, which is separate from this, I believe they're in their third or almost fourth year at this point. So it's quite slow. Like, this process is very long, very lengthy, a lot of fact gathering, a lot of research. These things move very, very slowly. And so we were given that task early on. We undertook that work. We started doing some research, started reaching out to stakeholders reaching out to us. And we explored, as I mentioned a while back, the idea was to explore all potential legal venues towards bringing back accountability for that particular case. And this was given as a priority by multiple stakeholders, right? So we also need to assess as the NF when somebody says, hey, I would like you to dedicate some time to this or whatnot. We need to look at, does that represent a lot of people? Does it represent a lot of token holders? And in this case, for the potential legal matters against Block 1, to the best of our knowledge, it represented a lot of people and a lot of tokens. So it really checked both boxes, not just in terms of weight behind the support for moving forward with this file and or exploring this file, but also in terms of number of people that are potentially impacted by that and that wanted to see, in this case, justice being brought or accountability being brought back to the mix. And so we did a lot of work for the last year and a half in terms of accumulating information, looking at what the different options might be, looking at what was currently on the table, what was going on with the other class action, reaching out to those folks as well, basically doing all the legwork and building a case of what potentially could the EOS token holders / the EOS community members do should they wish to pursue this file. And so the letter that I put out a few weeks ago now, to give or take 2 weeks ago now, is basically is the result, or is where we are at with this file at this stage in terms of the options that are being presented to the EOS stakeholders of which directions they could potentially go. What's important to clarify is that the ENF doesn't have legal stake in this battle. The ENF did not exist at the time. However, the ENF does have the mandate by the EOS token holders to help support and amplify the EOS community. And so the ENF can support, can coordinate, can help rally, et cetera, but it can't be the one actually, let's say, doing it. That needs to come from the token holders. And so the two options that were presented, the one, and I think that is being more so, I guess, brought up or wishing to be discussed is the class action side. So class actions are a particular beast. If you are attempting to do a class action, you need to figure out, well, what is the statute of limitations? Who are the actual right holders? How does the class action work? In which jurisdiction could you potentially bring that forward? Is it that you can only do one class action once? Is it interfering with another potential class action? Is another potential class action ongoing that you could join with, et cetera, et cetera? Like, there's a lot of work to be able to do to determine whether or not there is something that could be brought. Where we are at this stage is that, yes, indeed, there are legal grounds to be able to bring another class action. So to be very clear, the current class action that is ongoing is completely separate. If you as a token holder or you as a stakeholder have already joined this ongoing class action that's been going on now for a couple of years, you cannot participate in a second class action. And so if you've already given up your rights, and for those who recall, the current class action that is ongoing, if you recall, they'd set up a website where you would sign up for this. If you actually read the terms and such, you're essentially giving up your rights and are saying, I want to join this class. Essentially, you can't join a second class. What we've seen throughout this process is that class action did not really, first of all, its scope is quite limited. So the scope was limited to the ICO and the token sale, and the class in which it not grew, but the amount of people or the amount of token holders and the amount of people within that class is quite limited. So it didn't actually, and it doesn't actually represent the majority of the people that believe they've been impacted by the failed promises and the failed commitments of Block 1. And so we wanted to ensure that if we do something or if we help coordinate something, that it goes well beyond what is currently existing. And so this is what this class action would be. It would be for people who are not in the current ongoing one, that believe that they were wrong. The date, and why you asked then to specifically answer your question of why now, the date that I was very clear about in the letter that I posted is of September 1st, 2021. For those who recall, one of the last things that kind of put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, in terms of whether or not Block 1 was indeed contributing to the ecosystem in a tangible way that was no longer subjective, was the code base. And roughly in June, July of 2021 is when it became apparent that they were no longer contributing to that. There needs to be a lag of time afterwards. You know, are they on vacation? Are they potentially just pausing? Are they working on something and then it's going to be open source? Like there's a delay of time. So by September 1st, 2021, it was quite apparent that they no longer had that final pillar to stand on. So everything prior to September 2021 is in play. Is potentially eligible, and what we're looking for, and we've received hundreds of interested parties at this point, and so I'm also more at liberty to talk now because there's clearly a class. There's definitely enough people that believe that they've been harmed that they're willing to participate in the process at this stage. We've received hundreds of emails from individuals, so we're at a stage now where if you've sent in an email, and I encourage for those who have not sent an email, and if you believe that you've been materially impacted because you bought the EOS token in part on promises and commitments made from Block 1 in terms of them deploying, $1 billion is the I guess often referred to number back into the ecosystem, that you believe that you're purchasing a token that would have more utility than it currently does because of those commitments that were made, and that now you're left with a token that has less utility than what it should have had when you were basically bought into that. We invite you to write in, so please send an email to legal@eosnetwork.com. The majority of you have been using a template that was shared around that somebody created, so please feel free to do that. You don't need to do that if you don't want to, but it makes it very easy. You just copy, paste, send it in. What we're doing right now, and we will be sending out the first reply to the token, to the people who sent in their emails within the next couple of weeks, to let you know kind of what the next steps are. At this point, as I mentioned, there are enough interested parties that there is something here to definitely continue exploring. And so what we're doing on our side now is continuing along the path of what we need to do on our end in order to keep supporting that. As I mentioned, I'm also able to talk about this more now because now it's no longer abstract as to whether or not there is a class. There's clearly a class. There's hundreds of people that sent this in. We would like to have more people. The people and the stakeholders that I think this is very relevant to would be those that deployed a lot. So it doesn't need to be that you've bought a token and your token is not valued as much. It could be, a really good example is of a BP or a DApp developer. You invested your time in building in an ecosystem because you thought this ecosystem was going to be financially supported by Block One to the tune of $1 billion, and that you also thought that they would be updating the code base for a period of 10 years, more than just kind of dinky little upgrades. And so you were materially impacted because you chose to spend time building in an ecosystem based on commitments and promises made by the entity that had no intention on living up to those commitments and those promises. And we've got enough evidence at this point to highlight that this was intentional. Obviously, this is what would be brought to a court for them to determine. But I encourage everybody to send in your emails if you have not, if you believe that you were impacted, and if you want to see this get pursued, go for it. If you don't believe that this is the right path, that's fine. You don't need to do anything. This is completely voluntary. What the ENF does in this case is it can support the class. It can help coordinate the class. It is not the plaintiff because the ENF didn't exist at the time. But the ENF's mandate, though, is to support the people. And now it's no longer subjective as to whether or not there are a lot of people. We already knew this before, but as we go through the motions, then we're finding out more and more and more. So we also encourage you to tell others if that's been the case for them. The larger the number of people, then the more meaningful that class becomes. From what we can tell, this class already far exceeds the class that is currently ongoing. And the more stories we get and the more people that are involved that can showcase loss, which the idea would be to attempt to quantify those losses, the better. At the same time, we also understand that not everybody agrees with this. That is okay. Our mandate at DNF is to pursue initiatives that have enough stake and people behind them, as we've been doing for a lot of for basically every other initiative. This is just another file that has updates that are less frequent because this is a very slow process. But think of all the initiatives we're doing in the same matter. You get updates when relevant, and some files have more frequent updates, and there are other files that have less frequent updates. For the particular timing, as I mentioned, September 1st is a significant date. September 1st, 2023 is the 2-year mark. A lot of statute of limitations are around the 2-year mark, so it'll depend on which jurisdiction this would be pursued in. In all likelihood, this jurisdiction would likely be the Caymans for multiple reasons, although that determination has not been complete yet, but that is likely the case. And so that 2-year mark is actually important in there. Also, people want to know, why now? Why not a week later, or why not, a month earlier, or whatever it is? in large part as well, one of the feedback that we got from the studying the other class action is that they did not, and this is in part why the judge back in November 2022 rejected the settlement, is the class did not effectively do outreach to enough people, essentially. Like the process itself wasn't likely ideal in order to be able to actually create a class. I recall myself seeing the kind of the onboarding website and whatnot. I wasn't even sure if it was true. I thought maybe it was a scam. And so part of this as well is at this stage, there is more legitimacy to the ENF at this point. And so if you see the ENF making a call to send an email, it is more legitimate than, let's say, a year ago, the ENF asking you to send an email, because now the ENF is being recognized as the foundation. That's no longer being contested. The exchanges now recognize the ENF as also as the foundation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the longer we took in order to be able to create a more successful class also came into play to ensure that we reach out to the most amount of people as possible, while also ensuring that we're giving ample time before the potential deadline, depending on the jurisdiction, for that statute of limitations, while also ensuring that we have a more solid case that we can bring about as that that class would be pursuing. So there's a lot of work that was under the hood to get to this point right now. And as I mentioned, at this point, it is no longer theoretical. We do believe that we've got enough there. And highlighted by the amount of emails that we're receiving, we do also believe that we've got the reach in order to form a really strong class around this for those who believe that this is a worthwhile a venture to pursue, essentially an initiative to pursue. And the ENF will help and support those that wish to go that route, as is our mandate.
All right. Wow. Good update. Thank you very much for that information. Answers a lot of questions that I had. Answers a lot of questions I'm sure that many people had. To me, this sounds like good news. I am definitely in the camp of, like Kent said here, sue the bastards. But yeah, so happy to hear that, of these updates. I haven't sent my email yet, but I will. Been very busy. Next week, though, that's on my to-do list. Gonna be reaching out to my friends, family, a lot of people I know who owned EOS at one point. Gonna give them that standard email, send them, tell them to join the class. So at this point, actually, I'd like to invite Michael, if Michael is still around. He reached out to me this week.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Michael. Yeah, so you reached out to me this week saying you couldn't attend last week, but there was some thoughts you wanted to share with the community, so go for it.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you, Yves, for the update. Just wanted to share a couple things. I wasn't part of the EOS ICO, but have been a EOS token holder for a number of years, and I've always been an advocate and proponent of a compromise between ENF and B1, but I'm also well aware at the same time that it takes two parties to do that. So with the latest news in the EOS Yves' open letter, I'm definitely a strong proponent for option one. And I think it's incumbent upon us as EOS token holders to write in and to let people know of your interest. As Yves mentioned, anytime you have a class action suit, the more people that participate, the better off the chance that there is of it succeeding. And the first thing, and the second point I'd like to make is, again, it's not just EOS token holders, but it's anyone that invested time, money, man hours into B1's promises of maintaining the EOSIO. So if you're one of those people, I definitely would recommend writing in. And the third point is just something on a personal level. I wrote my email and I reached out to 6 individuals that I know that had purchased EOS tokens, and I sent them a text, but and one of the 6 actually wrote in, but I followed it up with a phone call and just let them know of, that doesn't obligate them to anything at this point, but just let them know their interest level. And essentially all 6 have since emailed in. So I would strongly encourage you, those that are in favor of potentially looking at the class action lawsuit option 1, to reach out to those that have purchased the token, let them know what it involves and entails. It's just it's only the first step, and it really, by you reaching out, I think it'll give them a comfort level into them to submitting an email forward. So that's all I wanted to share, and thanks again, Stephane, for letting me speak.
Great. Yeah, thank you for reaching out, and thanks for joining us on the Fireside today. Thanks to Yves for all those extra details. We got more answers from Yves than I was expecting. I was expecting the I can't say anything legal, standard answers that we've been getting for a while, which I totally understand why that's the case. But yeah, it was great to see that there's a lot of interest. Great to see there's enough interest for this to continue moving forward. And hopefully we'll get some more updates sooner than later.
Yeah, maybe just to clarify on that. Oh, I hear myself in an echo. All right. I don't think the pace at which you will be receiving updates will be any different. As I mentioned, the current class action that's been ongoing is years, and it's months and months on end before a following update after it was even filed. So people need to also have expectations that things like this take years. This is not by the way, you haven't heard anything back in a week, therefore, oh my God, something must be wrong. It is, you probably will not hear anything for months, potentially, or then there may be periods where you hear more updates, but these things are incredibly slow. The other thing to note that is really important for people to understand is that although I can share certain things as I did today, this is still very much an ongoing file. And so as much as you would like to potentially know more, the strategy or whatever it is, Block One is listening on the other side. Block One is listening to this right now. And so you also need to think that there is a strategy in this as well in terms of what should be released or what can be released. Because this is very much the idea is this is very much a legal battle. And so you don't want to necessarily say exactly what it is you're doing at any given time. There's a process for this. There's a way to do this. So also attain your expectations that, basically there's still information that is going to be left unsaid, so to speak. But now that we do have hundreds of people that have written in and shown interest, there's definitely a level of, I think, openness. It's not even really transparency, a level of openness maybe that's at a level that it wasn't prior, plus in the interest of time, plus where we are and et cetera, what I mentioned with the ENF, et cetera, et cetera. There are a bunch of now different pieces that make it great. Now we can talk about this.
All right. I will readjust my expectations. Thank you.
Yeah, so next Monday, you don't expect anything. This is a slow, very lengthy moving process, and it has nothing to do with EOS, has nothing to do with blockchain. Legal matters take very, very long time. As I mentioned, the other class action was supposedly settled almost a year ago, and it's still ongoing. And this is a very slow process.
All right, good stuff. Okay, cool. So I think that's a nice recap of this topic. We got some additional information from last week. As always, if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Join the channel. Send them to me offline during the week, whatever. I can compile them and then ask them again next week or for whatever topic. Okay, we are now officially well behind schedule about 20-25 minutes behind schedule. So apologies to our guests that are patiently waiting. Your time slot may have been bumped up a bit. So let's keep it going. Next up, we've got Gnome talking to us about Utility X. Are you still with us, Gnome? Yes.
I am. How's it going?
All right, going good. Yourself?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me. Just before I start on the topic, I just wanted to say, because I was there earlier when Jona from Atomic Assets was speaking, and I'm the lead developer of IBC. So I also sent you a Telegram DM. So if you want to tackle these technical complexities that we were talking about, feel free to reach out. I'm very happy to assist you in whatever shape, form that I can. So yeah, just check your Telegram messages. I already sent you a DM if you're still listening, Jona. Yeah, so happy to be here.
Love to hear it. Glad to see Fireside promoting more collaboration between some of our best and brightest. That's awesome.
Agreed. No, that's quite important. It's as we said, it's a very, as everyone here probably knows, it's a very strong technical foundation that we have, and I'd like to see a lot of projects build on what already exists. That's already amazing and, quite frankly, underused, right? So that invite is also valid for anyone who's building something cool. If you think that IBC might be helpful to you, feel free to reach out. I'm Gnome on Telegram.
There you go. All right, so let's dig into this Utility X Advanced Cross-Chain Liquidity Protocol. So I heard about this app actually last week, just a couple minutes before going live on the Hot Sauce, or the weekly news show I host every Friday. And so I kind of clicked around live during the Hot Sauce, and I was very impressed by the UI. I didn't actually connect my wallets to it yet. I didn't try it out, but just clicking around it, very cool. A lot of options, a lot of DeFi stuff, cross-chain. And I was actually pretty excited about this app on EOS, which I will admit, it had been a while since I had seen a new app that really got me excited on a deep, nerdy blockchain level. So I'm really happy for you to join us today and talk more about this Utility X.
Yes, thank you for having me. So I guess it's definitely been quite the journey to get there. Like, we started working on that on Utility X about several years ago, and it's a kind of an umbrella term for a suite of DeFi products. The latest of which is the one that we just released last week, is an automated market maker. All of these products are essentially applications that reside on UX Network. UX Network is a blockchain that also uses the Antelope software stack, so the same than EOS, the same than Wax. And we've been building that foundation for DeFi. That is probably we've been working on this for probably 4 or 5 years now, with pretty much since the beginning of the EOS mainnet days, and we have quite a few components to this suite of applications. Like I said, this one that we just released last week is an AMM. It's an automated market maker, and it presents a number of quite interesting innovations, I think, in the field of these AMMs. So for those of you that have been in DeFi for a while, probably the oldest and maybe best known AMM, or maybe not the best known, but the oldest definitely, is Bancor. It was essentially like I think released in 2017 or 2018 or something like that. And their innovation at the time was actually quite massive. They came up with that simple formula to take two assets, put them into a smart contract, and the ratio of the two assets would determine what the price of purchasing one of the assets with the other would be. And I remember at the time when they announced it, they raised something like I think like $200 million something at the time in their ICO, and there was this article that was explaining what they had done, and it was saying like that the line of code, like the $200 million line of code or something, because it was really like just this one line of code that was calculating the ratio of the two assets in that liquidity pool, and they essentially built a business out of this. So that was quite fascinating for me at the time. And of course, as EOS came along, as EOS was released and the chain was launched, and as an early adopter and an early block producer, I'm also the CEO of EOS Titan, we were there since the beginning, and we saw very rapidly that the EOSIO at the time and now Antelope platform was extremely powerful, extremely flexible, had all sorts of really amazing features to build very advanced financial products. We got extremely excited about what could be built, and we started looking into all sorts of different approaches that we could take to build what we had in mind, what were the future that we were envisioning, essentially. And so that's quite a journey that took us from there to here. But now I think we have a very good example of these kind of financial products that we were envisioning at the time, that is now live, that is now activated completely from start to finish, essentially. That also leverages this inter-blockchain communication technology that we've developed. So our goal was always to connect all of the blockchains together and offer services and products that would be essentially available to all of the users to each of the users of each of these chains, and essentially create this one big internet of blockchains in a sense. So yeah, it's quite a big milestone for us, and I'm very happy to see that the response that we've received launching this only last week. We've already basically like beat our expectations in terms of volume and users, and it's growing every day since then. So yeah, very happy to share this with you guys.
Very cool, very cool. Glad to hear that the usage is exceeding expectations. I haven't gotten in there yet. I definitely plan on getting in there. I'm gonna dedicate some amount of EOS and just kind of go do all of the things that I can on this Utility X platform. See how smooth it is. So I guess this app, actually, okay, hold on. How long have you been working on the Antelope IBC technology? Let's start there.
So I'm probably started working on it like 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, essentially, another, I guess, deception, from not deception, but like a disappointment from Block One, where right after the launch of EOS Mainnet, they announced that they had IBC that was coming, and it was imminent. It was essentially like right around the corner. They announced that back in something like June or July 2018, and I was very excited because I had been envisioning some applications for that thing, for IBC for like way before I even learned about the existence of EOS. That was a concept that was fascinating to me, and I was very excited to see that it was imminent. It was like 2 weeks, and I waited and waited and waited and waited, and after 2 years of waiting for it, I was like, okay, now like I can't wait anymore. Like I need to do it. I need to build it, because otherwise it's never going to get done. Like these guys are never going to release it. So that's when I started thinking, okay, how do we go about building something like this? And of course, I went through the whole process. I looked at all of the literature, at all the research that had been done on the topic. And there's a number of ways that you can quote cut corners in building an IBC solution, including having some sort of permissioned set of oracles and a group of people having some special privileges that can essentially move tokens from one chain to the other. But that was not good enough for me. And what I wanted was a protocol that would respect the ethos of cryptocurrencies and of digital assets. It had to be decentralized. It had to be independent of any third party, any relayer, any group of oracles, witnesses, validator. It had to respect the consensus mechanisms of the chains it connected, and it was very important for me to have the user being able to do everything by themselves without relying on anyone else. If they relied on someone else, it was only for convenience. It was just because it could make the experience a bit simpler, a bit easier. But it needed to be something that a user would be able to do by themselves without relying on anyone else if they decided that they were not going to do that. So that's why it took so long, because the first version of IBC quote that I wrote was a simple Oracle model, and that took a day. That was very simple to implement something that was permissioned, where you would give someone the permission to mint tokens out of thin air and to release tokens without any oversight, but obviously this is not something that will scale, that will work. If you're planning to build a foundation for true DeFi, true decentralized finance. So I needed to come up with something that was a cryptographically secure way of doing this, that would never give anyone the ability to rug pull the users. So building that was quite the journey. So yeah, it took about 3 years. I was not only working on that, but definitely was one of my main focuses, put it this way. And that's right. Also why UtilityX took about the same time to build, because we needed IBC to release what we had in mind with this marketplace. So they were joined at the hip.
Yeah, and that was kind of the point of my earlier question, is that I was wondering how long you've been working on UtilityX. You just answered that about the same time, about 3 years. And, when IBC was released earlier in the year, Yves on one of these fireside chats, he's like, now guys, don't get too excited and expect world-class dApps to be instantly released and IBC enabled, right? The tech now is released. Okay, now we need to give a chance to the dApp developers to learn about it, understand it, and integrate it in their apps. So a lot of apps are going to integrate IBC, but only kind of as of now can new apps be built from the ground up, knowing, with IBC in mind, which feels like your team had the chance to do, since you were also building the IBC technology, so you could build this app with IBC in mind. So that's one of the things that has me pretty excited about trying out this app, is kind of probably one of the first ones that was really designed from the ground up, made to be compatible with Antelope IBC.
Exactly. And I mean, some other teams actually built things already on top of this open IBC protocol, and they integrated IBC to their existing solutions. But now what we're beginning to see is literally new, let's say, protocols that are built on top of this IBC building block. I think yesterday or the day before, Michael Yates from creator of Alien Worlds announced that he finished writing a smart contract that will allow players or participants in Eden Fractal on EOS to have their votes transferred through IBC to WAX and be taken into consideration for voting the custodians of the planets of alien worlds. So that to me is really exciting, because now we can see people building additional apps that are using alien world, IBC to build their own workflows and their own processes that connect these chains together. So we're really starting to see these distributed dApps that reside on multiple chains at the same time and communicating, having the different parts of their applications communicating through this protocol. So this is very, very exciting stuff. I'm really looking forward to see what's gonna emerge out of that. And it's impossible to know. Like I think some people will blow our minds in the next few months and hopefully for years with amazing applications like this.
Very cool. That's the first time I hear about the alien world /Eden /cross-chain voting integration. Very cool. And I agree, this stuff is very exciting. This network of blockchains, I think is what you called it. That was one of the things that had me the most excited about EOS back in the white paper days, back in the 2017 ICO days, was this promise of IBC, was this promise of infinitely scalable horizontally, where all these networks can connect to each other. So that was one of the promises that I was very excited about, and then of course disappointed at Block One for them not delivering. But thankfully, other people like you guys ended up delivering on their promises. So very cool. We'll be hearing from John from Boyd later on today as well. And I know he had in the past mentioned that he was excited to implement IBC into their app. So maybe he'll talk a bit about that as well, on top of the Antelope Firewall topic that we'll be hearing from John. Getting back to this Utility X app, very cool. I'm really excited to try it out. And yeah, thanks for joining us today. Let me see here in the chat real quick if we've got some questions that I may have missed. Doesn't seem like we missed any questions. Anyone have questions for Guillaume? Feel free to jump on the mic at this point. Ask away in the chat, in the voice chat, whatever it is. Mauro asks about an update about the airdrop of QED tokens.
Yep, happy to answer. So QED is essentially like the evolution of the Delphi Oracle protocol that is that we created, that I created like 5 years ago almost. And essentially, what the QED model, what it aims to address is the problem of having nothing at stake for oracles when they're pushing data. If oracles are pushing data to a chain, you're relying on them to essentially tell the truth about the data that they observe outside of the scope of the chain, and to relay that information truthfully and accurately on chain so that it can be used by smart contracts. The way that we look at this is it's a very tricky problem, because usually people, their first reflex, I guess, is to start thinking, okay, like we can track the performance of oracles over time and figure out which oracles are reliable and are truthful and are reporting data the way that it occurred, and how like we can essentially trust them. And I mean, this is true probably like the vast majority of the time, but there's always this one point in time, this one transaction or one data point that has the potential of causing extremely painful situations. For example, I come from the financial industry, and you have this this moment in that happens regularly. It's a triple witching or quadruple witching hour, and that's essentially when you have all of the options, all of the futures, all the rebalancing of all the major indices that happens exactly at the same time, and people use the price of various financial assets at any given point in time during that day to perform all sorts of calculations that have massive impact on the value of all sorts of financial products. So whoever decides what the price is going to be at that particular point in time has massive influence and can take advantage of that in so many different ways. So we set to kind of address that situation. The big DeFi, the quick stake protocol, are also they receive from time to time airdrops from various things that we're developing, QED being one of them, that we intend to also airdrop to these users. There's a snapshot that already has been taken a while back. It was taken at least like a year ago. That will be essentially that will be used to send the next tranche of QED tokens. I don't have a date for that airdrop, but the snapshot has already been taken. And we will definitely be releasing additional material on that topic. We have the latest revision of the white paper that should be coming out very soon. We're internally working on that latest revision, so I'm expecting within the next few weeks it should be published. So I'm gonna still be forced to say date is TBD, but it's coming. It's QED. It's a Latin acronym for Quod Erat Demonstrandum, what was to be demonstrated, which is typically how you end a mathematical proof when you're describing a statement and you say like mic drop in a sense. Like that's the way I
mathematical mic drop.
see it.
I like
it.
it.
Mathematical mic drop. Exactly.
I like it. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Guillaume, for sharing. Thanks for coming on. And we look forward to hearing more from you. If ever you have updates of other things you want to come share with us, let me know. There's always going to be a spot for you on the Fireside.
Thank you very much for having me. And anyone, feel free to follow UX Network _UX on Twitter. We post all of our announcements there.
There you go. All right. Awesome. So we still got a bunch of guests here lined up. We've got John from Boyd. We've got Veronica from EOS Visions. We've got Leister from Edenia. Pat Novajoy from EOS Den. Lenny from the Upvote bot. If any of you kind of have to tap out, we can also have you on next week. But if you're still here, we're still here. Still 88 people live with us here on Discord, plus everyone who's watching on Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in out there. And thanks for joining us today for this epic Fireside show. All right, moving on to our next topic. Pomelo Season 6 is officially started. Applications are open. You can send in your applications for the various pools. Of course, this season is the first time we have different matching pools available. There's the EOS EVM pool, the GameFi pool, the Everything EOS pool, and the Telos pool. So I checked before the show started, we were at 23 total applications, 4 for the EVM pool, 3 for the GameFi, 13 for the Everything EOS pool, and 3 for Telos. Since then, we've had 4 new applications, so we're up to 27 applications in total. Nice start to the season. So good luck to everyone that sent in an application. Of course, applications are open for 3 weeks. There is a review period that you need to consider of a couple days before we can approve your grant as a public good. And then you'll get in there. Donations open in 1 week, next Wednesday. So do try to make sure your application is in before that time. That's always a good day to receive donations when donations open. All right, the Telos pool is very exciting for this season. Not directly related to EOS, but still something I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to share a tweet thread on Pomelo about about the Telos pool, which I'm having difficulties finding at the moment. Let me see here. There we go. Telos pool mega thread. So I'm going to go quickly over a couple of interesting points on that. Telos community is the new matching partner for Pomelo Season 6 with a juicy $24,000 prize pools for Telos applications. For those of you who didn't know, the Telos community has a powerful governance tool, and this partnership with Pomelo was approved through the Telos Works worker proposal system. So very cool to see the Telos token holders voting on chain and supporting, joining Pomelo as a matching partner. Very cool. And then the other thing is that this new pool actually leverages IBC. That's right. So you can fund public goods with Telos tokens on EOS. That's right. So you can wrap your Telos tokens onto EOS and then use those tokens to donate to the Telos grants. The Pomelo team did publish an article about exactly how to transfer Telos to EOS with the UX IBC. Of course, Guillaume, we just had on one of the lead devs on the IBC. So you can check out that article on Pomelo to find out how exactly to transfer your Telos to EOS. Not very complicated. All right, what else? What else can we say about Pomelo? The pitch sessions, of course, are still a thing. There's going to be the Twitter Spaces pitch session, 5 minutes in English. There's a Chinese session. There's a Korean session. And then there's also the Fireside rapid fire sessions, 30-second pitches. Everyone just shows up on the 21st of June. So in 3 Firesides, we'll be hosting the Pomelo rapid fire pitch session on the Fireside. No need to sign up for the Fireside pitch sessions. Just show up that day, put your hand up, and you'll be able to do your 30-second pitch. If you want to sign up for the other pitch sessions, once your grant is approved, you can do that. The links are on the Pomelo Twitter, Pomelo Telegram, all that stuff. And then you'll have 5 minutes to pitch your grant on the Pomelo pitch sessions on Twitter Spaces. All right, anyone send in some applications? I know many of you in here, I recognize many of you have applications on Pomelo. Let's see some ones in the chat if you've already sent in your application, and let's see some 2s in the chat if you plan on sending one this week. I am unfortunately a 2. I've not sent in my application yet for the hot sauce, but we'll be doing that over the next few days to make sure I'm ready for donations when they open next Wednesday. Got a bunch of 2s with Lenny, Edgar, Bjorn, Marek Tech, Perry coming in hot with a number 1. And maybe share as well which pool you plan on applying to. So as we can see, everything EOS pool is very popular. With the numbers there that I checked before the show, 13 applications there compared to 4, 3, and 3 for the EVM GameFi and Telos pool, which is not surprising. It is a large category, everything EOS, and so nothing too surprising for me there. But definitely happy to see that we already have some applications in all of the pools. And so if you are an EOS EVM project, or you are a GameFi project, make sure to get in here this season. It's probably going to be good opportunities for those types of projects to receive some donations from the community and some matching funds from the matching partners. All right, Daniel Keys coming in, sharing a screenshot of the Pomelo.io platform, highlighting the different pools. Daniel, did you want to jump on the mic here and share a few words?
Hey, thanks for having me on. Not a lot to share. I think you did a good job covering. I'm excited to see how, what happens with multiple. This is, not just the first. Yeah, not only are we multi-chain for the first time, but also multi-pool for the first time. ENF coming in with 3 of their own pools. Interesting to see how this shapes up over time. previously we had one big general pool. Now the everything EOS pool is one of the smaller of the pools we have available. And as you noted, so far, seems that's where most of the grants are going. Will be interesting to see if that changes over time, given the larger incentives in those other two pools. I'm looking forward to digging into reviewing some applications and making some donations once those open next week.
All right, awesome. And of course, the collections feature is still available this season as well. We'll be talking more about that in the coming weeks as donations open. All right, moving on to our next topic, Antelope Firewall grant. So at this point, I'd like to invite John from Boyd to talk to us a bit about the work that he's been doing on this Antelope Firewall. John, are you still around? I know it's a bit later than the...
Hey, Steph.
Hey, John.
Thanks.
All right, so how are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's pretty active Fireside today.
Yeah, I love it. Ton of guests today. Actually, a couple people messaged me last minute. Hey, Steph, can I jump on the Fireside? I've got this topic. Love it. I love when you guys do that. Definitely, keep doing that. And so what did you want to share with us today, John?
Sure. So I guess I was just going to do a quick update on the Antelope Firewall, which is if you're not familiar, a firewall is a piece of software that sits in front of some other piece of software. So to protect it from spam and to route queries and things like that. It's really also like a proxy because it proxies requests to many nodes behind it. So a common issue that we see with infrastructure providers that run nodes, Antelope public RPC nodes, is that they get spammed by these requests and people will push transactions without any way to limit how they're pushing transactions. So they end up processing like 50% of the requests that they process are just failed push transactions from arbitrage bots, for example. So we're like, well, what if we try and solve that problem with a piece of software in front of the node that was a little bit smart and understood, how to rate limit specific things. So that was our proposal that we made through the ENF grants framework, and that was approved. So we've been starting development on that. It's written in Rust, which is like a very high performance systems programming language. So it should be able to handle any number of requests and things like that. I know it's not very exciting for a common user, but it's a really big problem for infrastructure providers that we're hoping to solve for them. And the end result for you as an end user is that hopefully we'll see more people running high quality nodes that are more reliable. So this is a common issue today, is that most of the public nodes they might be usable for signing a transaction here and there, but if you actually try to use them more, you start running into a lot of problems. So I think overall, in general, the end result of this will be that using the chain will just be more reliable. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you for that simple explanation that even I could understand. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. Well, was there anything else while we had you on stage here, John, that you wanted to share with the community? Maybe not Antelope Firewall related.
Yeah.
Maybe something with Boyd or IBC, like I mentioned earlier.
Yep. So we have a Pomelo proposal that we've been doing a few for many seasons, actually. I think maybe even the first season of Pomelo we had it on there. The EOS IBC proposal, which is basically just originally we were thinking like, we want to build an IBC solution based on the Cosmos IBC, which is a trustless IBC solution. But then once the UX team stepped up and they got funded by the ENF and open sourced their code, and that kind of became the standard, we were like, we're glad the smart people were actually going to solve the problem. And we don't have to do that. So we changed the proposal to to basically be like tools and frameworks to build on top of the IBC that the UX team built. So we're going to be launching a website called Antelope X, and it's basically an IBC portal where you'll be able to easily move tokens and do other kinds of IBC actions like moving NFTs across chains. I really like what was mentioned earlier about like alien worlds, like cross-chain voting. I think that's going to be huge. Like you could imagine, like with Haifa DAO, you could have a DAO that operates across multiple chains. So I think that's going to be awesome. And so we're building a whole suite for that. That's all going to be open source. The key differentiator of our solution versus what you might have used, like with Alcor has like an IBC page, and there's like the UX IBC, is ours has like worker nodes that run in the background and that handle pushing the proofs for you. So instead of needing to sign two different transactions on two different chains, you just sign the one transaction to send it, and then we handle everything else. And there's a small fee that's included in that to pay the providers that push the proof for you on the other chain. And we can combine this with account creation. So like with one click, you'll be able to move tokens from one chain to another and create a account on that destination chain if you want to. And you could imagine a setup where we provide a cross-chain name service where you make a name on one chain and you get that name automatically on every chain that we support. So you could, pay one time on one chain for a name, and automatically that is your account on every chain. So that kind of makes IBC a little bit easier.
Very cool. Very cool. Love that idea. All right. Well, thanks for jumping on the Fireside together, and thanks for sharing your updates with us.
Sure. Anytime.
All right. See you around. Okay. Next up, kind of related. Veronica works with the Boy team now. She's been doing her EOS Vision Pomelo grant in the past, and now she's received a grant through the ENF's direct grant framework, and she'd like to share a bit more about her plans for this grant. Veronica, I understand that you have a translator with you today. I don't know how that's going to work, but you're welcome to take the stage and share with us about your grant.
Hola a todos, saludos a la comunidad de EOS. Un placer estar acá con todos ustedes.